I mean, obviously it's hot. I'm dieting. I'm uncomfortable. And I'm on a ton of other gear. I can't just pin it on the Methyl Tren. But I would say that I wouldn't do that again. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the podcast with Dave Crosland. I'm Scott McNally, and all of our programming is brought to you by you, the people of Patreon. Thank you very much for your support. We try to take Patreon questions with priority. We've got a couple of those today. Plus, if you want to take part in our shows, we take all of our comments off of YouTube. We turn that into our podcast. The next week, we answer all your questions. We are also brought to you by evalbloodanalysis.com. You get your lab work done by Dave if you're in the UK. Also, Strom Sports Nutrition for all you in the UK. They've got good health and performance supplements there. TrueNutrition.com. They're a title sponsor of our programming. Use our code THINK for high-quality third-party tested supplements. And, of course, SupplementSource.ca for our Canadians. Great deals that change week to week. Dave? Dave has had a rough day. Dave had a rough weekend. Dave got into a little car accident. I hear that. He had a rough weekend. Things didn't go the way he wanted at his event over the weekend. And it's just, we don't all have good days, but now he's going to get a chance to unplug from all of that and have some fun on the podcast.
I've had a shit week.
Would it help if I showed you a magic trick?
No, not in the slightest. Unless that magic trick's you disappearing. No.
Watch this. I got a magic trick for you. Hold on. Okay, so before your eyes here. Let's see. Before your very eyes. How would you do this? Before your very eyes, and oh, he moved. Christmas Cabbage is with us. How do you like that? And he's gone. You want to see him again? Here we go. Watch.
No.
And he's back.
You know when you've had a shitty week,
and
you're in pain, you're not sleeping well because of the pain, then you have issues at work, then you have vehicle problems, then there's loads of paperwork shit that's not right. And then you get some knobhead trying to be funny. And all you want to do is go serial killer on his ass.
Hold on. And okay, one last thing I'll say to you, Dave. Ready? And he's back. And he's gone. All right, thank you guys. I'll be here all week. Guys, Dave has had a rough week, and he does exaggerate for the podcast. I'm going to be honest with you. I know there's a little exaggeration there. He enjoys hanging out with you guys. We actually had people who don't get it, and they're like, why is that guy so grumpy? He should, have a better attitude and stuff. It's like, that's not cool.
All right, well, I've got an answer to them.
All right, listen, let's talk some gear. We have some non-gear questions, too. We were going to launch with this one. Guy asked us, he says, hey, Dave and Scott, great episode. What's the mechanism behind Tren-induced nipple puffiness in gyno? Since it does not aromatize into E2, and it doesn't increase prolactin substantially. Thanks, guys.
It does increase prolactin.
By the way, we're going to talk all about Tren as a result of this question.
No way? Oh, do we have to?
Oh, yeah.
So it acts as an ER agonist, therefore makes the ER receptor slightly more sensitive. It also lowers DHT. DHT has a gynopreventive role. In fact, if you suffer with pubescent gyno, one of the treatments for that is DHT cream, which they'll ask you to rub into the breast tissue. It lowers DHT, which obviously reduces the protective factor that has against gyno. So there you go. There's a couple of mechanisms there.
What do you think about Tren overall? We've got
Tren bad, cake good.
Tren provides some otherworldly results, though. You can't deny that.
Tren bad, cheese on toast good.
We call that a grilled cheese here.
It's look. The thing is, very powerful compound. Can have very, very dramatic effects. There's no denying the capability of that drug. It can do a lot, but it can impact a lot as well. And the one thing you need to grasp very, very quickly in the anabolic world, if it is effective, it will come at a price. A lot of the issues around tend to focus around cognitive issues, mental health issues, depression, anxiety, paranoia, those sort of things. Yeah. And it is true, it does disrupt those things quite substantially. And there's some mechanisms we sort of have an idea around, and there's other mechanisms we're just not sure about at all. One of the uglier sides of Tren is that, from what I've seen, a decent number of people that experience things like anxiety from the use of Tren don't necessarily lose those problems when the Tren stops. So there's a decent portion of people that continue with issues post-usage. Not everybody, but there is a portion of people that do. It has a reputation. It's been nicknamed divorce in a bottle.
Yeah.
And there's reason behind that, because there are people that struggle with the drug behaviorally wise, and it does cause friction in relationships because of those behavioral problems. Some people tolerate it much better. I did not find Tren particularly impacting mood-wise. The main impact it did for me was make me withdrawn and sort of cold, sort of emotionless. But I didn't get anxiety or paranoia or any of those issues. Tren is shown to have direct negative impacts on the kidneys. There's a few case studies showing that. And it is linked with AKI, which is acute kidney injury, but it's not as yet confirmed as a direct cause of kidney damage. Now, they're two different things. So an AKI is something you recover from, where kidney damage is a permanent state. Having said that, several AKI incidents can result in kidney damage. So there's a definite progressive link there. It's known to affect people in lots of different ways. Some people tolerate it better than others. There's no denying it's a good, powerful strength drug. There's no denying it's a good drug in the sense of being in a cut. Give you a harder look, give you a dry look, give you a leaner look. All those things are true. And there is tons of anecdotal evidence from people using Tren that, they can get away with a sloppier diet and still stay lean and all the rest of it. So there's that, but it is a very stressful drug, both physically and mentally. Personally, I'm not a big fan of its wholesale use. I prefer to keep it for very specific jobs. And I think it's very easy to move to Tren because it is so powerful and it is going to give you results.
Yeah.
But then it's difficult to move away from it because there's very few drugs that do actually impact you physically in the way Tren can.
Yeah.
And so it's a double-edged sword. All I would say with Tren is you need to respect it.
That's a huge point.
It is not a drug you can approach casually. You need to be very respectful of it. And you can get on with it fine, be 4 or 5 cycles in, and then pop, you have a problem. And sometimes that problem then does not fully go away. I've spoke to loads of people that have had years of using it on and off and had no issues with it, and then they get to a certain point, it's just like, I can't cope with this stuff anymore. I do think your tolerance probably improves a little bit with exposure and with age, but I think that's also because you mature in how you think about things and how you focus and deal with problems, and so you're not as likely to be as paranoid and anxious about situations as you would have been when you were younger as well, though. You get better confidence in who you are and in your relationships, and so you're not necessarily going to have an underlying factor that's going to be exploited by Trenbolone use. But strong drug, but approach with caution.
I started the first time I ran it with 75 every other day, along with 100 prop every other day. That was the go-to cycle at the time. Like, people were like, hey, if you're going to run Tren, you use it with prop. These are the two things you do together. Tren Ace, test prop. And it was dosed at 75 at the time. You didn't see the 100 Ace like is pretty common today. It was a pretty wild ride. I had a huge negative impact on my sleep. But I can tell you what, I used a dose that was substantially higher than that in the future, down the road. And with me, my tolerance to it got better. I will say this. It's a compound that you don't need a lot of, though, to get a good result. In general, as a coach, I would say I hold on to it. It's not something I use in every case, but if somebody is going to use it, we usually go with ballpark 50 every other day. Maybe we might start at 40 every other day. I've even heard of people saying, hey, I do 25 every other day, and I get an effect from that. And as Dave would say, if you get 25 every other day works for you, then crack on. 50 every other day, somewhere like that. Maybe the last 6 to 8 weeks of a prep is where I would generally put this.
Yeah, I like it for the final weeks of prep, so I'm probably 4 to 6 rather than 6 to 8, but yeah, similar sort of ballpark. And I'll use it pre-comp for power as well, for like power lifters.
Tren Ace versus Tren E. I've used Tren E more likely in the off season if we were going to use a small dose of that, maybe even as little as 150 milligrams, and that would definitely be like an 8 to 10 week thing in the situations I've used it. I found that it is good in a cycle where strength is a primary focus. We're trying to grow, and we don't want to add a ton of additional unneeded weight.
I tend to not use it in off-season cycles. I'll use it in comp prep cycles for both bodybuilding and powerlifting, but at off-season I tend to go to less stressful drugs and focus more on training and diet rather than hard hitters like Tren. Yeah,
it's rare that I ever use it. There's been some circumstances where it seems to have made sense, but those are like very individual. Figure as a coach, if I'm coaching, and we both have a lot going on, but figure I coach full time, right? So imagine how many people you can work with on that basis. And I can say that this year alone, I think I've used it twice in off seasons. So comparatively to the number of people who are dieting, that's a lot lower,
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be a go-to drug for off-season for me. There's some people who live on the bloody stuff, but
yeah,
I would suggest that they may encounter problems at certain points.
I've had clients who say, hey, can we run Tren E for a contest prep? Personally, I'm not a fan of using it for a contest prep. I've always seen Tren as being like a scalpel, that I can get it in there surgically at the right time. We can modulate the dose for effect and to control side effects. If you aren't feeling great from it, if we do get side effects, we can just simply pull it out or reduce the dose, and you'll see those changes rapidly versus if you're on the long ester and all of a sudden you're like, hey, my blood pressure is through the roof. We might have a couple weeks of wait time, while that long ester clears. For me at contest prep, it's just like I said, surgical is the best way I can put it, because we use that as like everything we do, tools in the arsenal, right? And we want to be able to evoke specific changes at specific times. So I'd much rather have that control like you can with an ACE versus test E. It's just like, well, we put it in and now it's there,
Yeah, definitely, and I must admit I would prefer fast acting in most cases. Occasionally I'll use nth depending on where we are. Plus a lot depends on the user's experience as well, and where they are. But yeah, I mean, like I said, there's no denying one hell of a... I mean, I think Nick actually said it quite well, a gift and a curse, and I think that's quite a good way of looking at it.
Hey guys, so I'm seeing that like 35% of you are not subscribed to the channel, which on one hand is great. That means that YouTube is getting us in front of new people. On the other hand, that means that we might not see each other again if you don't hit the subscribe button. We have several bodybuilding podcasts each week. We've got our reaction videos. We're doing YouTube shorts. So let me encourage you right now to subscribe and hit the bell. And if you're enjoying this show, then please hit the like button and leave us a comment. Yeah, he also said some of the most fun and most anxious and socially distant I've ever been. Yeah.
See, I didn't get much of that, but then I did use a lot as well. Not that I'm known for using large doses in any way, shape, or form at all, but
no, never.
I may have experienced a little bit more than your average bear on that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. So the second time that I used it, I mentioned I ran it that 75 every other day. And then the second time I used it, I made it myself. We used to get the pellets and then mix them all up and convert it and strain it. And there's coffee filters involved and syringe filters, and it was a mess. But yeah, we used to do that. The Finacarts, and they were cheap too. You get that Finacart for like $30, and that was enough to make I believe there was 2 grams of Tren per Finacart, so that was a good deal of Tren. But the second time I was like, oh god, that first cycle was terrible with Tren, but I want to do it again. I started at 25 every other day, okay, and I over time built that up. A couple weeks later I went to 40. A couple weeks later I went to 60, and by doing that I got away without getting those same side effects. I will say this as far as a negative for Ace: if you started out too high, it's quite a rush of hormone hitting you all in that first week or two. And if I feel like for me at least, a lot of the side effects had to do from going from 0 to 100.
Yeah. I mean, Ace is going to definitely introduce itself very, very quickly. The problem with Nth is obviously peak plasma gets a lot higher than you actually realize.
And it's easy to take more,
Yeah, so people might think, I'm only going to run 200 milligram, when in fact at peak you're probably nearer 350 of total. So that's the big thing with slow-acting esters. People don't realize how much they will layer on top of each other when you're doing a weekly or a bi-weekly shot. A twice-weekly shot. Whereas Ace, the concentration's higher because it's a fast-acting ester, but at least it's in and out relatively quickly as well.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Any other thoughts we have on that? I can say that, man, my number one side effects personally were the insomnia at high dose, and then the night sweats. Oh my god! Especially if I was still on carbs, the night sweats from Tren were from another world, man.
It does increase insulin sensitivity. Also, the other thing with Tren is it can upset some people stomach-wise and increase stomach acid, and they can get real problems around that area.
Yeah.
And there is one derivative of Tren that we've not discussed at all.
What's that? Hexabenzyl carbonate? Oh, Methyl Tren. Whew. So basically Tren on Tren.
Well, just to give you a sort of example of how much stronger methylated Tren is, it's dosed in single milligrams for one. Generally, people actually take it in micrograms.
Yeah, exactly.
And if I remember rightly, its androgenic value is 64,000. It's not a direct comparison. I realise that before anyone starts shouting and screaming about that. But, it is a very powerful version of Tren. Generally used as a pre-workout or pre-lift in any strength competition is Methyl Tren. But it's strong stuff.
Here's where I ran into my conflict with it. And I'm speaking from my personal contest preps. So commonly, guys who are prepping are going to use some variation of the combination of Tren, Test, and Mast. That's kind of like the meat and potatoes, bread and butter of what you're going to see at least the higher contest level. Not everybody's doing it. Everybody's got their own thing, but I'll say that that's been kind of like the staple over the years. So when you get closer to the show, next step would be some type of, and those things are staggered in, of course, at the correct time. So it's not the whole cycle. Then toward the end, we add in some sort of an oral. Winstrol would be, I think, a really common option. Maybe you're doing Anavar. I don't care, whatever. Then from there, if you wanted to take it a step further, the following step would be something right at the end. And that's where something like a Methyl Tren may come in. Now, my thought had always been, well, Halo is what I'd always gone to. And my thought had always been that I'm already on Tren. Why don't I go down another road versus Tren on Tren? You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I've never actually used Methyl Tren from a point of view of comp prep in bodybuilding. I've only ever used it from a performance point of view, so lifting. I
did one time, and I started at low, 250 micrograms the first week, and then I went to 500 micrograms toward the end of the first week. Second week, I went to, or it was second week, maybe it was going on the third week, I went into 750, and that was the boiling point for me. I was still working. I remember it was summertime. I got heat, basically heat stroke, man, because you're so hot already. And I remember being in this back room at a warehouse and just being like, oh my God, I'm literally going down here. So there was that. And I do feel like I was more irritable overall with it. Obviously it's hot. I'm dieting. I'm uncomfortable. And I'm on a ton of other gear. I can't just pin it on the Methyl Tren. But I would say that I wouldn't do that again.
I used Methyl Tren once. For one period. I used it as a pre-workout a few times. I can only assume that what I took was garbage because I went up at 3 gram and got nothing.
Oof. I would have stopped well before that, man. I feel like
I didn't get anything. Well, yeah, but then when I used Tren at high dose, it wasn't anywhere near as impacting on me. So I had to be thorough, Scott. I didn't want to not, make sure I hadn't tested it properly.
Maybe your natural levels of Tren are already really high. You know what I'm saying? We have Scott Stevenson hanging out with us. In fact, he commented on my, he said, America's Got Talent, take notice, because he saw this. Watch this, Steve. Watch this. Oh, I lost my thing. No, wait, there it is. Okay,
Scott, don't encourage him. He's hard enough work as it is.
Wait, hold on. Here we go. Watch this.
It's like working with a special kid.
And woof. Look at that. Christmas cabbage. And
well done, Scott. Well done.
Thank you. I want to ask Scott a question. And comment if you know, please. What causes the Tren sweats? Or anybody who's watching this, comment, let me know. Because, man, that was something fierce, man. I'm talking Dave, I literally got to a point where I had a program, okay? When I was ready for bed, I would take a beach towel and I would lay it over my mattress, over my pillow, okay? Then the middle of the night, I would get up and I would roll that beach towel over. Then a little bit later, I would get up and I'd throw that towel on the floor and I'd lay a new one down. And then an hour or two later, I would roll that one over. And by the morning, they'd all be on the floor and everything would still be soaked. And I'd be 6 pounds down. Nothing. You got nothing.
I'm waiting for Scott to answer. He's a clever person.
Oh, well, he's got it right. It's going to take time. There's a delay. We'll get into our questions, though.
I was talking to Scott about Scott to somebody this morning.
You were talking about Scott to someone? Was it all good? Good stuff?
Yeah. She'd interviewed him for a research paper. It was Maya Underwood, and she interviewed him. And she'd done a review, and she just said, "Read this and tell me if you know what I'm talking about," because she said she didn't want to make it too obvious, and there were 2 people that she was talking about. There was one individual was talking about, not particularly in a negative way, let's say a non-complimentary way, and then the other person she was talking about was Scott, and it was about the differences in bro science and within the community information.
Okay.
And she cited this PhD individual who had written a book that had thousands of studies referenced in it, and that's got to be Scott. And it was.
We got another trend question while we're on topic as we move into our listener questions. Carl, he asks us, Tren and Dbol together? Yes or no?
Well, not just them two and nothing else. I don't think I'd do it. Personally.
Yeah, no. Test base. So test base, of course, of some form, right?
Yeah, well, yeah. You just got to remember that Tren's gonna. I mean, Dbol's a synthetic estrogen that's pretty strong in the first place, and then you're gonna have Tren that's gonna make you more sensitive to that estrogen. So, just be prepared for that. That's the main thing. Yeah. Sometime it's all right knowing the individual compounds' impacts. You know how they work, what they do. But it's sometimes a little bit difficult to predict what the combination of those impacts is going to be, and whether some of those parts is going to be equal or greater.
Yeah.
So in that sort of scenario where you've got an aromatizing compound like Dbol that converts to a very strong synthetic estrogen, and then you've got a compound like Tren that makes you more sensitive to estrogen, how much is that going to increase your total estrogen sensitivity, and how you react to negative impacts from high estrogen is difficult to predict.
Totally. Yeah, I did run this cycle before. Let me tell you, Dave, like crazy strength, crazy strong at the time on that. But I think you make such a valid point. I'd always found that if you can control estrogen, the likelihood of, we talked a little bit ago about like prolactin issues, the likelihood of having those issues goes down.
Mm. There's definitely a link between elevated estrogen and elevated prolactin. And prolactin has impacts that change the impacts of estrogen. So there's that element as well there.
Yeah. All right, let's see what else we have here. Hey, what's up, guys? I have a lot of people who reach out to me on a regular basis who are trying to more effectively reach their goals. One of the biggest mistakes I see people make is that they're not getting enough protein. And there's only so much chicken breast we can eat through the day, but we can easily add a high-quality protein supplement to boost those numbers up. True Nutrition has just about every protein powder you can think of, from high-quality whey isolate. If you don't tolerate lactose, then you could use their beef isolate, or you could use their pea protein isolate if you don't eat animal products. They literally have everything you'd think of. I've believed in them for like a decade before they advertised with us. And they never went out of their way to say like, hey, we want to promote our stuff through you. I literally asked them because it's a company that I believe in. And at the end of the day, I want to see you guys reach your goals as effectively as possible. So if you use our code THINK at True Nutrition, you'll get some savings, you'll help to support our programming, and you'll get some high quality products to more effectively reach your goals faster. How about this one? We were asked about a product called, let me pull it up here. It was a Trained by JP product, and it was called like Heart Love. Yes, Love Heart. Love Heart. I grabbed the, so this is, and I'm seeing that this is from the US. I'm pretty sure that he's in a partnership with Dante. Pretty sure that they've talked about that. That this is, if for the U.S. at least, it's being manufactured by True Nutrition's parent company. So we've got citrus bergamot. Is that what that is? Bergamot, 500 milligrams. Ubiquinol, 200. Grapeseed and celery seed. I don't think that sounds like a bad thing, do you?
No, I don't think it's a bad product. I would argue that the citrus, the serving, if that's per serving, you're going to need to run a double serving as a standard.
Agreed. Two. Yeah, how much citrus bergamot do you recommend? I go with 1,200.
Well, I'll start at a gram anyway.
Yeah. I wonder, I'm looking up too to see if Strom has anything like this, because they are an advertiser, they sponsor our shows.
He does Lipid Max.
Okay, so in that case, as great of a product as it is, they don't advertise with us, so poo on them. I prefer Strom's product. How about that, Dave? No. I'm kidding. It's good. Sounds good. But I do agree, man. I would want to see that doubled as well. All right, what else do we have here? Greetings, guys. Does the pump cause a muscle to grow? I feel like when I don't get a pump, my training went bad. Also, for muscle gain, would you say it would be better to do more weight for less reps or less weight for more reps? Love the show, guys. This is from Alex.
I don't feel a pump is necessary at all. Clever Scott will definitely inform us that there's some scientific reason with pumping and blood flow and all that sort of crap. And I don't, for 1 minute, poo-poo on that in the sense that it isn't valid. But I think the real-world impact is not that great for most people. But a pump does feel nice. A pump will tend to encourage you to push harder.
Yeah.
So there is psychological impacts from a pump as well. I mean, my shoulders very rarely pump significantly, and I very rarely got DOMs on them significantly, but there was no way they weren't growing.
Yeah.
And I love DOMs. I've always used DOMs as a measure of a good workout, where reality is it's not necessary for growth. What was the second part of the question?
Is, let's see, and higher weight for less reps,
yes,
or more reps for less weight?
Unfortunately, I'm going to really pee him off and say neither. I don't feel it's either. I feel it's all about how well you engage the muscle, and therefore how hard the muscle works in the load and number of repetitions you give it, rather than one being specific over the other. You move a heavy weight for 6 reps badly. You move a lighter weight for 15 reps more effectively, then the lighter set's going to do more for you. You do 15 reps that are crap, and you do 6 reps heavy that are extremely good, then the heavy set's going to do more for you. So it's more down to the quality of rep and engagement of the muscle you're trying to target, to me, rather than particularly the number of reps and loads used.
I agree with you 100%. The old school, like the real old school guys like back in the 80s, 90s, Ron Love era, he would say higher reps with more weight. That would be his answer. Get strong and do high reps with that. In fact, John Simmons, who was a pro, he is a pro bodybuilder, lives here in Michigan. First pro that I ever was in the gym with. And he was like a regular at this gym I went to. Really looked up to him. And I remember telling him when I pressed the 90s. I was like, John, I did a dumbbell incline press with the 90s. I'm going to try the 95s this week. He's like, oh, how many reps did you get? And I was like, oh, I got 10 reps. So I'm going to move up. And he's like, oh, well, how about you just stay at those 90s and learn how to get 20? You do that, I guarantee you're going to have a bigger chest. And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to get probably a bit too far forward with this, but I'm not even a big rep fan. I personally, obviously I don't do much in the way of training anymore, but when I did, I very rarely counted reps. I very much worked on how I felt, how the muscle felt, how much connection I got, how much I felt I was working.
But you probably weren't down at like the 3 and 4s, were you?
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes, but those 3 or 4s may have been literally 4 or 5 second reps. So
yeah, I wouldn't suggest this guy did 3 or 4 reps based off of his question. I would tell him
I
8 to 12 would be a good place to start, but do more even.
That's where I sort of ended up. It ended up being more about the time I spent under stress than the number of reps I did in that time I spent under stress.
Yeah, okay.
So it is time and attention, but not in the normal sense where most people look at time and attention, and I describe time and attention as very slow reps, where I didn't look at my set volume or my rep volume as that. I just looked at I've used a lightweight, I've been under load for say 30 seconds, and I did 15 reps, you know what I mean? So it was all relative, but I moved away from particularly counting reps and more went on just how much tension I put on the muscle and how long I applied it for.
Yeah. Yeah, more advanced, it sounds like, right? I would say to him, learn to get strong, but I'm with you, Dave, that it's the quality. I wouldn't just try to, heave more weight. One thing I figured out a little while in was keeping the muscle under tension longer through the set. I'll see, or I even think of myself taking like the hammer strength leg press where you can load like 20 plates on each side, basically, and then I'd be like, all right, I'm doing my heavy leg press, and I go 1 and then lock it out, and legs shake 2 and lock it out. And instead of doing that, using a lighter weight, but using constant reps, not locking out, not stacking the joints, trying to get as many constant reps as I can and keeping the tension in the muscle was much more effective for me than using a heavier weight and then basically having to take a rest between each rep,
Yeah, there's so many ways you can increase the stimulus on the muscle. There's so many ways you can increase the intensity of the muscle, from just mentally connecting with it to, like you say, using continuous tension. There's a lot of times when we lock out, we're resting. We're not contracting the muscle. We're just resting.
Yeah.
But at the a very basic way of how you could work this is you focus on strength, you get a little bit stronger, then you clean that strength up, so you're now doing that same weight but much better quality reps.
Yeah.
You then increase the number of reps you do with that weight until you start getting into the teens. Then you start focusing on building some more strength. Then you tidy that up. Then you focus on bringing those reps. And it's cyclic. But it doesn't mean that every body part has to be in the same part of that cycle at the same time. It might be that, in your leg press, you're pushing heavy, where on your biceps, you're on a higher rep up sort of period, where in your chest, you're cleaning up that strength and making the quality of those reps better.
Yeah.
But there's you will get into this natural groove of, and if you, I think the problem is a lot of people is they blindly follow their training week in, week out. And they don't stop and go, right, hang on a minute, how was that set? How was the engagement? How do I feel after it? How does the muscle feel after? They don't assess where they are. It's just more load, more load, more load, more load. And they view that as progressive overload. When progressive overload can be rep tempo, rep quality, level of engagement. There's a million different factors that can create progression in the stress that you place on the muscle you're training. Yeah. And I do think it needs to be cyclic, but I also think it needs to be cyclic from a point of view of engagement, as in mental engagement, mental enjoyment. There's some days you just want to go in and throw some heavy iron around.
Yeah.
Fuck the form, fuck everything else. I just want to lift up big weights and grunt and scream a bit. And there's nothing wrong with that, as long as you recognize it for what it is as well.
Yeah. I agree with you, Dave. George White, he said, so this is a comment, and I'm going to just throw it up here. One of our listeners recently asked, what was the import fee for the Think Big shirts to send them to Europe and the UK? And he said, in case you never got the reply, Scott, the t-shirt was $10 shipping to the UK. I ordered 2 and was still $10. So he says that the red looks nice. He likes it. And by the way, I have the link below, guys, if you want to buy shirts. I need to send you a shirt, Dave. I need to find 4Xs still. That's the problem. I go up to 3Xs, and I think our US 3Xs are bigger than UK 3Xs.
This is a 6 I'm wearing.
You're kidding me. Should I see if they have muumuus?
I've got a muumuu. You leave my muumuu alone.
I know you have a muumuu, but I thought maybe you might like a nice Think Big muumuu, one that has a picture of the cabbage on it or something.
No, I quite like. I'm happy with my muumuu.
You got to eventually wash your muumuu, Dave, and while you're washing your muumuu, you have another muumuu to wear. That way you don't have to run around without your muumuu, naked.
I feel you're in some way insulting the muumuu here.
No, never. I'd never do that. People loved the muumuu last week, by the way, and people loved your story about the birds and the bees with K-Bird. They really appreciated that. We all learned a lot,
I like to be educational. What can I say?
That's good.
Sometimes you just have to speak a language that people can understand.
Yeah, that's good. I think we both know what the answer is here. Prince in the live stream. I don't want to put the question up because there's a bunch of stuff listed that we don't want to put on the screen. He says, he's dealing with muscle cramping, 8 weeks out from NPC Masters. Good luck to you, brother. He said, I added Anavar, Winstrol, Proviron, Clen, T3, Cardarine. Noticed a few days in, I'll get muscle cramps and spasms. Did not have this before I started the orals. He says, what would be causing the cramps? Number one, we would both, I think, probably believe it was the Clen, but damn, it sounds like he added all these things at once. Like he just dumped them all in at once, Dave?
Clen definitely. What's your hydration? What's your electrolyte intake like? Have you seen a significant drop in water since sticking that lot in? Is that playing some role to this? There's quite a few bits and bats that could be been, but that did seem a sudden change. Yeah, all that in at once.
Yeah. As a coach, what I've done is systematically, use these things like your paintbrushes. We add in the Winstrol or the Anavar. I'd pick one personally, depending on the cycle, and that would be going in at a certain time. The T3 would be going in when fat loss was slowing and food was possibly getting lower. I want to get that fat loss continuing to move. Then a little sprinkle of T3. The Clen, I probably would have added in a little bit while before that. And then we adjust the doses as we go. We watch the fat loss and we adjust. They're all different buttons to press, along with your nutrition, along with your cardio. I wouldn't just hit all the buttons, you know what I'm saying, at once.
Cooking with Scott, so we add a little sprinkle of T3 to make the donut.
Mm-hmm. It gives a good base, yeah. All right, what else do we have here, guys? Look at that, we're cheering Dave up. Here's another one for us. Another non-gear question. He says, gents, love the show and some Uncle Dave advices. How important is eating at nighttime? My appetite starts from 9 p.m. I usually go to bed at midnight, and I feel sometimes bloated when I wake up. Your advice is much appreciated. And this is from George.
So if you're bloated when you wake up after effectively should be around an 8-hour fast, then that would suggest that something you're eating is not agreeing with you, rather than anything specific around timing. I don't particularly see any problem with eating at any time, as long as it's within the plan of what you're doing for a calorie consumption for the day. But if you are bloating after 8 hours of sleep, then that would suggest that something you're eating isn't agreeing with you. So I'd say that's more an issue, is you've got a digestive problem with one of the foods than the fact that you're eating at 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I forgot to mention to Prince, make sure you're getting, like Dave was saying, plenty of water. I'd make sure you're getting at least a gallon to start. And taurine can be really beneficial for the cramps from Clen. What would you dose your taurine at, Dave?
Some reason I want to say 500, but it's that long since I've done anything with it. I can't remember.
Okay, I do. I go higher. I didn't know if maybe you use taurine. It sounds like it's not a big one for you. I'll go with at least 1,000. I think 500 would be fine to start, though. But I'll do like 1,000 in the morning and 1,000 in the evening. I might even start with 1,000 in the evening before bed and see how that works for you. And if you get cramping the next day, then pop another 1,000 in the morning, 1,000 in the evening. And as that Clen dose increases, if you get more cramping, I would also increase that taurine too. I'd go up to 2,000 twice a day, maybe something like that. But
okay,
yeah. On the that current question, jumping back to that, you get the vibe this guy's not eating during the day, like he doesn't eat much, and then he just eats a lot between 9 and midnight?
Possibly. I mean, that would definitely explain the bloat, just a pure overloading of the stomach. It has a work capacity, it struggles to exceed that. You give it too much, it's going to start to struggle.
Yeah.
So that is very possible. Yeah.
Reference to Dave. Rubber Dinghy Rapids. He'll know.
Fucked up chicken, bruv.
What? You guys are speaking your own language now. I don't even know what the hell's going on here. What did I say? What's going on here, guys?
Squat jogs.
What's happening?
Oh, that's a reference to a film.
Oh, okay.
A very funny film that was actually filmed not far from me. I know that. I go past the house where it was filmed quite regularly.
What movie was it?
4 Lines. I think.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it is. Huh. Basically, it's these Asian kids in the UK that decide they're going to become terrorists.
Oh, God. Is it a comedy?
Oh, yes.
Okay. Well, we'll have to check that one out.
Funny as fuck.
How about this one? Fast Times. He said, at the timestamp, 28 minutes, 30 seconds. My 2 surrogate dads teaching me valuable life lessons. That was the part about the curry and the caber.
Yeah.
Can you guys touch? This could be a hot button subject for Dave. Can you guys touch on the modern TRT clinics and how they can provide low dose cycles for people who want a small boost in the gym, but in a legit way?
That's some of the stateside. It's not something that exists over here, so I can't really touch on it because it's not something I have much experience with. I mean, the question sort of answered it in itself. You know, it's a way of that is so far being allowed for people to run low dose cycles with legit prescribed gear. In the UK, you've got no chance of that. The controls around private TRT clinics wouldn't allow that. Well, not that I'm aware of anyway. I mean, there are some unscrupulous providers, but they aren't generally sourcing their drugs through legit means within the country, either.
Yeah.
So it's really a stateside phenomenon, is that?
Yes, and it's very popular over here. Even guys in their 20s are getting on TRT now over here. Versus a decade ago, you couldn't do that unless you were like over 35, basically.
I mean, it's easy going to go one of two ways, and there was a push a couple of years ago by the FDA to tighten up on TRT clinics in the States. That doesn't seem to have really materialized in anything realistic.
Yeah.
So it's going to go one of two ways. It's just going to end up being so mainstream that you can literally go at 18 years old or 21 years old, walk into a clinic and start on some form of anabolic management. Yeah, it might not be full-blown recreational cycles, but it's going to be above and beyond what TRT would call for.
Yeah.
Or there's going to be a bite back and it's going to get super, super strict, and a lot of people are going to end up in dire straits because they're not going to be able to get what they want to get from their doctor anymore. I suspect the first rather than the latter.
Yeah, me too.
Because I think overall tolerances in the sense of public opinion around these things, people just don't give a shit anymore.
No, they really don't, man. They've got pot and everything is like basically legal here, you know?
Yeah.
And
so I can see it getting to a point where, you know, to an extent, you're going to get away with test at 200, 250, and you'll get away with a little bit of Anavaro, maybe a little bit of Master on as well. You're not going to be going in and order.
We don't do mast.
Okay, but you're not going to be able to go in and order, you know, fucking test and decorate a gram.
Right.
But you'll get away with what has been coined sports TRT or performance TRT, I think.
Yeah.
And I think that could end up being fairly widespread. You usually find the UK follows the States by about sort of 5-10 years later when it comes to this sort of stuff.
Okay.
So it's something we may see over here. There's definitely been a boom in TRT in the last sort of 3-4 years, particularly private providers. But up to press in general, they are sticking to the recommended sort of levels and doses.
Yeah.
Whether that will evolve, we're expecting a clampdown. So the main regulatory body for all this is CQC.
You're in the UK. You're expecting a clampdown.
So the main regulatory body for this is CQC, and they are trying to get their fingers into a few things. But they are so disorganized. They are so understaffed. They are so underfunded. At the moment, they're struggling to even just do new registrations, let alone any form of enforcement about existing registrations.
Yeah.
So unless there's a major change in how they operate and how they're funded, I don't see them ever being, to be honest, even fit for purpose when it comes to regulating the industry. So I think TRT clinics have got a pretty free rein for a few years yet before things start getting in any way controlled over here. But it's all fairly new territory.
Yeah. Hey, shout out to the Bull. He said, just to share, 1,200 test, 850 mast, and E2 is under 20. So, and I asked him, I was like, hey, how's your progress going? He's doing really good, great cycle. And I encourage him to share pictures over at the Think Big group on Facebook if he wants to. And this was in response to us talking about mast as an AI or a SERM or do nothing at all. And I think it had to do with something I had said. Here's what I noticed, Dave, and I'm just kind of restate this that I said last week in a little bit more of a just slightly more expanded way. So in the last 18 months, 2 years, I've tried to be open-minded to both mast and EQ, and looking at the effect that they have on estrogen. And my conclusion was that it does work. It does work. I've seen it. And, the Bull is an example. But that said, I don't see it across the board. If there's a consistency to something like a Arimidex. Now, we take a Arimidex, that dose is probably going to vary person to person, but I can absolutely guarantee you that we are going to be able to reduce aromatase from there with that. Mastern, on the other hand, it's always a matter of let's get into the cycle, let's take your labs in 4 weeks and see what's going on, and then let's reevaluate from there. So far, in both of the case with mast and with EQ, I've seen just variation. Some people like the Bull; it works fantastic for. Other guys, I don't see it as being as effective. So my only point in saying all of this is it's not black and white. You know what I mean? But then again, I guess nothing really with compounds and individuals is it?
No, I mean, just in the last 2 days, Monday and today, I've written 48 reports.
Okay, yeah.
Of those, roughly 20 odd were test and mast usage.
Okay.
And out of those, I think pretty much all of them, there might have been one or two that had reduced estrogen. Most of them had estrogen that was significantly elevated.
Oh, really?
But none of them were reporting estrogen sides.
Okay.
So, I mean, there's also, Figure Steve did a podcast with a guy who was a researcher, and he'd done research into the mast metabolites and the ligands that exist. and he'd said that their research was showing mast working as a SERM, not as an AI. But at the same time, like you said, there's someone that's watching the show that's showing reduced estrogen from using Masteron. I've seen it as well in other people, but at the most tend to show quite elevated estrogen, but no estrogen sides. And when I say quite elevated, I mean, I'm talking people with estrogen levels that are 2-3 times maximum range.
Oh, I've seen that too. I
but they've got no estrogen side effects whatsoever, and they're using Masteron. So yeah. Obviously there is a SERM-like action there.
So I'm all for hey, let's listen to you, listen to Steve, listen to look at what this research is. At the end of the day, though, I'm not a research guy. You know what I mean? I'm a real world in the trenches guy, as you are too, from the side of seeing labs, and you work with clients as well. I want to keep that stuff in mind. I'm happy to know that and have that insights. Applying it in the real world, though, I just don't see it across the board. So that was my main point. And also, too, like I said, shout out to the Bull. Sounds like he's making some good progress. What else do we have here? He says, this was... I'll come back to this one if we have time. The modern TRT clinics. Let's see, where are we at on the show? We're about to wrap up here in a minute.
Organized as usual, Scott, I see.
Oh, I really am. Somebody asked if True Nutrition ships to Europe. They would, but the cost would be really high. One of the reasons I like True Nutrition is that they are cost effective. But if you're going outside of the U.S., like going to Europe, there's going to be additional fees and taxes and all that crap, and that would no longer be as effective then.
But what we'll do is Scott will buy them for you, and then he will ship them to you as a gift, so you don't pay taxes on it, and then you can pay him back at whatever the price is over here.
Yes. When your man buys you a curry. Just a comment there. And I said, note to self, don't let Dave buy me a curry.
I wouldn't buy you a curry.
Right.
We are at no way at the curry buying stage in our relationship, young man.
Right,
I wouldn't even buy you half a cider. So
what's a half a cider?
Don't think. Well, you know what cider is, don't you?
No, I know what a cider
is. Cider is alcohol beverage made from apples.
Oh, okay. Huh. Yeah, we don't have any, really. I mean, maybe we do. Well, I don't drink, though, so there's that.
I wouldn't even buy you half a cider, let alone a curry. So you are way down on the pecking order for getting a curry.
But you will be going to Edinburgh with Victoria, your wife, and myself. So definitely get your traveling shoes on, pack some bags for that.
No,
Dave?
I'll be going to Edinburgh with Victoria and my wife.
I do have to bring this one up, and we'll go real quick with it, just because I know he's posted it a bunch of times. And I told him I didn't really have any feedback for him. So he says, I have a bicuspid aortic valve, which is classed as a heart defect and in some cases a disease. It's a type of abnormality in the aortic valve of the heart. And let's see, there are 3 leaflets where the blood flows. Arnold Schwarzenegger has the same thing, I think, and he had a few surgeries. Generally, people end up doing surgeries. Only 1% of the population has this heart condition. I was curious whether you have any knowledge on this and the impact of steroids on the heart. I'm seeing one of the top cardiologists on an annual basis. That's a required check for people like me, who is also a personal cardiologist for Liverpool and Manchester football clubs. I think he means soccer. He advised that it doesn't get much impact. It won't have much impact if I only use test. However, it could be a problem if other drugs were taken, as they will tire the heart. A steroid impacts muscle rather than the valves and such. However, since you both are in the bodybuilding world, you may have more practical knowledge. I told him, don't ask me, don't ask us. He's got a cardiologist on his side. Like, don't ask guys online, first of all. That's the reason I hadn't answered the question, even though he's posted it a few times. But I want to throw it to you, Dave.
I can't comment on the heart specifically. What I can tell him is that his cardiologist is incorrect in that test is okay, but other drugs may not be. Test will be just as significantly impacting on heart structure than the other anabolics will. Yeah, okay, stuff like DECA can have a more direct impact on the heart, but heart wall thickening, myocardium thickening, obviously valve changes do occur with exercise, but they do also occur with anabolic use. And whereas valves can enlarge with training, they can malform with anabolic use. So I don't think test is a safe bet in that sense. TRT, that may be a different conversation, but if you're starting to get to abusive levels of anabolics, And before anyone says it, like if you use this drug in a non-medical format, it is technically abuse. Don't be ashamed of the word. Don't try and cover it up and hide from it. It's steroid abuse. So what? Fuck me, I've abused tons of the stuff.
And look at your heart today.
It's knackered. Yes, I know. Don't be a fanny about this crap. Hey, I forgot to go to my heart appointment as well.
Dave.
I know.
How's
to go again?
I know we got to do Uncle Dave's advice, but how is everything with your recovery and stuff right now?
Yeah, I feel so. Yeah.
Can you put your arm overhead yet or not yet?
Yes, I can now, but now I've got this goddamn fucked up wrist thing.
Oh. Are you doing your cardio yet, Dave?
No, I'm not. Not in the slightest.
Okay.
I can't use my left hand, so I'm not going to try and hold my weight on a bloody stationary bike when I can't do anything with my left hand.
Is that bad, huh? What's going on with it?
Yeah. I have to type using voice activation now.
Well, you might actually get your spelling better that way, so there's that.
It has helped massively in that. To be honest, yeah.
Dave is a very big man, and holding a phone is like when you're like holding a little child's, like be like holding a Barbie phone for normal people, you know. You're
so it's either one-handed or it's voice speech type thing. I had a scan last Friday, and I've got to go discuss the results with the doctor this Friday.
Okay.
But
Uncle Dave's advice. Do you have anything?
I don't know, nothing, because I've had such a shitty week. I haven't thought of anything because I'm too busy moaning and complaining about how crap my week's been.
Well, I think that there's lessons to be learned right there. Like you put on a happy face today. You did the podcast, hung out with all your friends on YouTube. You know,
I've all two of them. I've touched on this last week, I believe, as well. In that, you know, your outlook, your point of view, how you view your circumstances, very much shapes how they impact you. And obviously, I've had a bit of a downer all week. Started last weekend, and it's just been literally almost something every day that's gone wrong in a fairly substantial way that has resulted in a really crap week. And it's, you know, I'm just at the moment a little bit fed up, peed off, and everything just seems... and that's compounded by the fact I'm not sleeping, and I'm having to use bucket loads of painkillers just to get through the bloody day. And I hate painkillers at the best of times, so trust me, I am taking these freely. So yeah, it's all been a bit shit, and as a result, I haven't really got much on the positive front to say this week because I just feel a bit fucked off with life.
We have those times.
The one thing I will say, this is normal. It does happen to everybody. Oh, actually, yes, there is probably something I can pull from this, actually.
Keep swimming?
No, I'm not going to say keep swimming, but you must. I am still swimming. I am definitely still swimming. Well, doggy paddling. I don't think you can describe my
with one arm. With one arm.
Yeah, I don't think you can describe my movement in water as swimming. But I will actually. Yes. So we are often pushed, advised, told that we should be happy, we should be positive. We need to be positive about everything. And that is utter bullshit. You can't be positive about everything. And if you were positive about everything, you were living a lie. Because there is shit that will piss you off. There is shit you'll get angry about. There is shit you'll get sad about. And that is perfectly normal.
Yeah.
Engage with it. And this is another thing. If you try and live a perfectly positive life and you try and be perfectly positive with your children, you will actually create misfunctioning adults who cannot cope with life because they haven't been taught the tools to cope with the crap that life will inevitably at some point throw at you.
Yeah.
So it isn't about always being positive. It's about recognizing positive opportunity when it presents itself and being open-minded to that. But there is definitely nothing wrong with being shitty, having a shitty day, being pissed off, and wanting to tell the world to go and do one.
Understand. I think that's a good point. It's real life, right?
So yeah, there was something came of that crap. So there you go.
I got something too. Ready?
Oh, for God's sake.
Christmas cabbage. There he is. And he's gone. Wow. Look at that magic. Thank you again, guys. Thank you again. And thank you, Dave, for taking...
I just can't cope with this crap anymore. I'm done. I just can't. No. No, Scott, no.
Thank you for taking the time, Dave, even though you were having a crappy day and a crappy week. And we all appreciate you, and all your friends on YouTube are happy to see you here today.
Shut up.
We all love you.
Fucking nonsense. I've had a crap week, so what? Big shit, crap happens. Let me rant and rave for 10 minutes. But I do not want to see this garbage again.
Oh shit, I unplugged my headphones. Oh my god. Okay, I'm back. All right, there we go.
No one on the planet deserves to have to watch that shino continue. No.
I messed up.
Oh, God.
And he's gone. And so are we. We appreciate you guys tuning in.
Yourself?
Let's see. If I could, I would, because it'd be a funny prank. But I don't have that kind of technology here. What do you think we're working with, Dave? I have a green screen set up. All that.
Yeah. It's amazing what you get for Tandy, isn't it?
We appreciate you guys tuning in. Thank you for watching. And go to evalbloodanalysis.com. Get your lab work done by Dave. And if you're in the UK, that is. And, of course, go to Strom Sports Nutrition. If you're in the UK, get some good health performance supplements. TrueNutrition.com. Use our code THINK for additional savings. High-quality third-party tested supplements. Supplementsource.ca for our Canadians. And, of course, thank you to everybody from Patreon. And... thank you, Christmas Cabbage, for another episode of Drugs and Stuff. We'll see you soon. Thanks, Dave.